Namaste, this is Srini from Figuring Out Hinduism. Today's video is an endeavor to pass on the real story behind how the Tirumala Tirupati Lord Venkateshwara temple came about. So the story starts around the end of Dwapar Yuga, the beginning of Kali Yuga. This is just after the Mahabharata has actually happened, and all this sages sort of get together, and they're like, the Kali Yuga has started. Who's going to be the most important god who's going to save the humankind from all the sins, or bless the humankind for that matter? So all these sages, they sort of get together, they get into a debate, but essentially nothing comes out of it. So what happens is, then they go to Maharishi Bhrigu, who is the Manasaputra of Lord Brahma. So they go to Maharishi Bhrigu and they're like, Sage Bhrigu, we have this big question as to who is going to be the greatest god in Kali Yuga. Who is going to be the god who's going to save mankind and bless mankind from all the sins and give them moksha? So Sage Bhrigu doesn't have the answer to that. So the next thing that he knows is he goes to his father, Lord Brahma. So when he goes there, he finds Lord Brahma is actually busy with Saraswati. His presence is not given any importance. So basically, Brahma doesn't care of his presence. So Bhrigu gets so angry that he curses Brahma that he will not have any temples on earth. So that's why you don't have any temples on earth. Now, next thing that Bhrigu knows is Lord Shiva. So he, from Brahma Satyaloka, he then comes to Kailasha to meet Lord Shiva. So again, Lord Shiva is again busy talking to Parvati, and again his presence is not given credence. So Bhrigu, now he's super angry. So he curses Lord Shiva again. He's like, okay, you will be prayed to in the form of lingams. Right? You will not be prayed to as an idol. People will pray to you in the form of lingams. That's why you have Shivalingas everywhere. After quoting two places where he couldn't find any answer to his question, he goes to Vaikuntham to meet Lord Vishnu. So again, Lord Vishnu is busy with Mahalakshmi, and he does not give credence to Bhrigu's presence. So now Bhrigu is so angry and he's so much enraged that he goes and kicks Lord Vishnu in his chest. Now that is completely unheard of, right? But Bhrigu does that. And Vishnu, for what he is, and Vishnu is the epitome of peace and tranquility. So Vishnu does not get angry. Vishnu catches hold of his feet. He apologizes. And what he does, he starts massaging Bhrigu's feet. And in that process, what happens, Bhrigu has an eye at the bottom of his feet. And that eye represents his ego, right? So what Vishnu does is, so Vishnu quashes this eye while massaging. So that's when Bhrigu gets to know that he realizes fault and he begs for pardon. And Vishnu sort of blesses him. He's like, okay, I understand your situation. With all this, there's another aspect to it, that through all this, Mahalakshmi was just near Vishnu. And Mahalakshmi, if you know, she stays in Vishnu's heart. Mahalakshmi is so angered at the act of Vishnu. So it is almost as if Bhrigu has kicked her, because she is the one living in Vishnu's heart and she can't understand Lord Vishnu's reaction. She is like, he has kicked you in the chest, on your chest. It might not be anything big for you, but your chest, your heart is the place where I live. And if he has kicked at your heart, it is almost if he has kicked me. So she gets angered and she actually leaves the place. She leaves Vaikuntham. And then she descends on a Varaha Kshetra, which is again near the Tirumala hills. and she starts doing her penance. Since Mahalakshmi has left Vaikuntham, so Vaikuntham is supposed to be the heaven where everything is in abundance. But since Mahalakshmi has left, so all the grace has gone. Vishnu is actually quite disturbed by this, so he also leaves Vaikuntham to go find Mahalakshmi. Now, and then Vishnu goes to this place again, to the Tirumala hills, and he finds a tamarind tree and what is called a small lake called a Pushkarni, and he starts meditating there. So Mahalakshmi has already she does a lot of tapas, like 12 years she is just doing penance. And Brahma and Shiva see this and they're like, oh my goodness, what is going to happen on Vaikuntham? We can't have Lord Vishnu and Mahalakshmi at different places. So they sort of devise an idea. So Brahma goes to Mahalakshmi and asks her to become a cowherd. And Brahma and Shiva become a cow. And Mahalakshmi is asked to sell the cow to the local king. So Mahalakshmi becomes the cowherd and she goes and sells these cows. Now the king buys them, that's all okay. And then the cowherd sort of takes the cow out for grazing. Every time the cows come back and then they are milked. So regularly they find that there are 2 cows that are not giving any milk at all. And this is like a big concern for the king. So the queen sort of calls the cowherd and chastises him, admonishes him as to why is something like this happening. So the cowherd gets into investigative mode and he wants to know, he wants to give an answer to his queen. So he follows these 2 cows one day, and what he finds is these 2 cows go and they sort of open their udder to this ant hill. And this is the ant hill where Vishnu is sitting meditating. And these 2 cows there are Brahma and Shiva. So in anger, the cowherd sort of takes an axe and gives a blow to the cow. But Vishnu gets out of the anthill and Vishnu takes the blow. Seeing that, the cowherd sort of dies. And the cow is full of blood and all. And so the cow runs back to the king. And king, seeing this cow all smeared with blood, he comes running to see what has happened. So he sees a dead cowherd and he sees Lord Vishnu standing there. And Lord Vishnu sort of curses him to become a Rakshasa. And the king sort of pleads his innocence and he says, this is not my fault, sorry, this might have happened because of me, but this is not my fault absolutely. So Vishnu understands. Vishnu says, okay, what I have cursed you is cursed. I can't do anything about it. But you will get relief from this in your next incarnation as Akasha Raja when you will gift me a crown. So then this sin will go away. So he's like, okay, fine. So next incarnation, this person becomes the Akasha Raja. So Akasha Raja doesn't have any children. So he sort of prays to the gods for children. And while plowing the land, he finds a baby wrapped in lotus. So that's why he names this baby Padmavati. Padmavati has a backstory again, which is related to Ravan. So when Lakshmi leaves Vaikuntham and descends down after her penance, and all this is over, she reincarnates as Vedavati and she wants to get married to Lord Vishnu. In between that, Ravana comes and Ravana tries to convince her of leaving this journey of getting married to Vishnu and get married to her. So he comes and sort of tries to pull her hair and touch her and all. And she gets so enraged, she cuts off her hair, the portion that he held, and she also gives her life away because she doesn't want to be in the body which was touched by an asura. And she curses him that if he touches any woman without her permission, he will die. So that's why he does not touch Sita in the Ashokavana. Now coming back, so when Vedavati dies, Vedavati's next incarnation is Padmavati. Now coming back to Padmavati, so Padmavati is a princess. She is going around playing with her group of friends and assistants, and Srinivasa is born to what is a saintly lady called Vakula Devi. Now, Vakula Devi is again a reincarnation of Yashoda from Mahabharata. So, Krishna's mother. So, when Yashoda told Krishna that she wanted to see Krishna's marriage and she could not see in this lifetime. So, Krishna promises her that in her next life she would be able to see that. And next life she is born as Vakula Devi, and Srinivasa is born as her son. Now Srinivasa is going around hunting an elephant, and that elephant sort of runs towards the palace of Akasha Raja. And there's this big garden and all where Padmavati is playing. And as soon as the elephant reaches this garden, it sort of turns back, it bows to Srinivasa and it runs away. So basically Srinivasa has scared the elephant and the elephant has gone. So that's when Srinivasa looks at Padmavati and is like totally enamored by her, and he wants to get married to her. So he goes back to his mother and tells that he wants to get married to Padmavati. But Padmavati is the daughter of a king, and Vakula Devi is just a saint, so there's no social mismatch happening, right? So what to do? So by that time, what happens? Padmavati, after seeing Srinivasa, she has fallen sick, and she has fallen really badly sick. Nothing can be done. She's so sick that none of the royal doctors are able to do anything. So at that time, there is a fortune teller that passes by. And this fortune teller is no one but Srinivasa. So he comes and tells that Padmavati has to get married to Srinivasa, and only then will she get cured. And that's when Vakula Devi sort of enters the palace. She sort of lays down the proposal, the alliance to Akasha Raja, saying, my son is Srinivasa and he likes your daughter and I want him to get married, and he wants to get married to your daughter. And so Akasha Raja again does not know that Srinivasa is Lord Vishnu. Although Vakula Devi does tell that Srinivasa is Lord Vishnu. Yeah, that's all fine, but what about it? Like, how can my daughter has lived in opulence all her life. She has lived a royal life. So I would want the same life for her. So he asks Brihaspati, and Brihaspati is like, yes, this marriage has to happen. It's the right thing to do. But Akasha Raja wants some sort of insurance. So that, like, just to ensure that his daughter lives a good life. So that's when Kubera is called to give a big loan to Srinivasa so that he can get married to Padmavati. So that's why they say, like in Tamil, there's a saying, Vaddi Kadan Vangu Vengatramnar. So Srinivasa has to pay this debt and interest to Kubera. And until he does not pay, he will stay in Tirumala Tirupati. So that's the thing behind, and that's why that temple keeps getting a lot of money, because all that money has to go back to Kubera. So then the marriage happens. Fine, good, great. Everyone is happy. And that's when, so a couple of months after the marriage, the goddess Lakshmi gets to know that her husband has got married to someone called Padmavati. So she descends to Tirumala and she confronts her husband. And that's when her husband turns to stone, to a black stone. And they say that's how the idol is. That idol of Lord Venkateshwara actually it sweats from behind. So Lakshmi is enraged. Lakshmi and Padmavati is again enraged. Now then, so all the gods come down and tell Lakshmi and Padmavati that this was all for the greater good of humankind, and although both of you are different in physical forms, but both of you are the same. So then both of them decide that they wish to be with their husband. So both of them again turn to stone. So if you see in Tirupati, on the right hand side of the Lord, it is Padmavati. On the left hand side, it would be Lakshmi. That's why Lord Venkatramana has two goddesses near him. So that is one story. I think that was very interesting. Please do subscribe to this channel and press the bell icon. Please do share this with your near and dear ones so that we can together figure out the third largest religion of the world.